Okay, we're back. We're going to go over how to generate bar graphs using our frequency and our relative frequency calculations. Now, the keystrokes are going to be a little bit different, but to start with, it's going to be really simple. Making a bar graph is fairly easy. You just sort of play around with things. I played around with it to figure out what I could do, and there's all kinds of stuff I'm sure there's left for me to figure out how to do. But either way, what I want to do is I want to highlight my data that I want to graph. So in this case, I want this to be my bottom label for my bars, my random variable x, because my random variable x is actually these labels, these categorical measurements that are called TV shows. And then I want to be able to graph on the vertical axes the frequency. So on the left-hand side column is your x. The right-hand side column, or the second column that you select, is going to be your y. Now, because these guys are side by side, you can just select both of them. You left-click, and you highlight both sets of cells. And then you don't go up to FX, you go up to Insert. And Insert is something you use a lot as well. When you press Insert, you're going to get a whole menu. It's going to vary depending on the version that you have at home. But you're always going to see pictures of graphs. The pictures of graphs are the more or less, if you want to do a circle graph, it looks like a circle graph. If you want to do a line graph, scatter plot, histogram, histogram, blah, blah, blah. But here we want to do a bar graph. So you click on the bar graph. It's always best to pick the simplest. You can get fancier later, so I'm going to pick something simple. And it goes ahead and it makes a preliminary sort of bar graph for me. Okay, a little ugly. All right, not too beautiful. It's missing some things that we need to include. Let me just sort of get out a little bit there and sort of zoom out. I can make this graph bigger too, if I want to. Okay, but it's graphing my data. As you can see, the frequency for How I Met Your Mother, there it is down here, How I Met Your Mother. Okay, the frequency is 3, and then for Family Guy is 5, and Big Bang Theory 5, and Modern Family 3, Seinfeld 3. So if you remember your data, that's the way that it was. But you'll notice there's no label on the vertical axes, and there's no label on the horizontal axes. There is a little title up here, which is nice. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to actually add things. There's 2 ways to do it. One, you can actually go to Add Chart Element, and you can add things as you go along. You can add axes, you can add axis titles, you can add chart titles. This whole drop-down menu will let you add all kinds of things, okay, whatever you feel like, okay? I'm going to show you how to use that for one thing, but what I'm going to do instead is show you another way to actually get a pretty nice looking graph, and that's by using this quick layout function in the top left. So if you hit the quick layout, there's all kinds of different graphs that you can use that have different things in them. They're actually little small pictograms that show you all the bits and pieces. The one that I like is this one down here because it's got bars, it's got labels for the axes as well as the actual individual labels for each group, and it's got a label for the vertical axis as well as the numbers, and it's got a title in there. It does have something I don't want, but I'll show you how to remove that. It's fairly easy. So I'm going to click on that, and you're going to see what happens quite quickly, although it gives you a sort of a generalized version, is it gives you still a chart title, an axis title, another axis title. And it gives you this thing for a legend for having multiple pieces of data on the same graph. In this case, if you don't want to do that, you can delete it. Boom, gone. Okay, and it just resizes the graph and it's gone from there, but that's a nice way to sort of customize and make your own graph. Okay, so let's do the axis titles first. So for the axis title, on the bottom there, remember this is a favorite TV show. Favorite TV show. Took me a little while. Sorry about that. A little plodding in the darkness here. Okay. And then here, of course, the vertical axis is going to be frequency. Or if you prefer, you can also put, number of occurrences or something like that. But really, frequency is the actual proper name for the measurement. Now, what I'm going to do here is something that you shouldn't do. In here, we're going to put a nice, beautiful title, but I'm going to delete it just to show you how to put in your own title if you want to. Okay, so, oops, I've deleted it, or oops, the version that I have didn't have a title. How do I do a title? You go to Add Chart Element all the way over here, and then you add in a chart title. You can have none, which is what I have. You can have above the chart, center overlay. I prefer above the chart. And you can also move this around if you want to. Okay, so you can do lots of things with it. I'm going to go ahead and edit that. These are some words you need to have in this. You need to have frequency, distribution, because that's what this is. It's frequency that we're measuring, and it's how it's distributed amongst all the different groupings that we have. Okay, and then of course after that you want to qualify it with a measurement or the nature of the measurement that you're taking. So frequency distribution of favorite TV shows sampled from Mr. H's data class, I don't know, fall 2012. Okay? Something like that. Something, the descriptive title is nice to have in there. But you have to have the words frequency, and you have to have the words distribution, and then you have to explain to me a little bit about the nature of the random variable x, which is this variable down here, which of course is our TV show. Okay, so that's a nice, beautiful graph that you have there, and it resizes it once it adds it, and you can actually move this around and do all kinds of things with it. You can go and you can customize this. You can go and you right-click on it if you have a Mac, or you can right-click on it if you have a PC, and you can add all kinds of stuff to it. You can format your data series, which means you can add coloring, you can add borders and shadowing and 3D. You can do all kinds of craziness with it. So you can go ahead and play around with that. I'm not going to play with that. As far as I'm concerned, I like the data that I have. I can analyze the data. It means something to me, and I go from there. So I'm going to take this graph and I'm going to move it over here, and then I'm going to show you how to generate the exact same type of graph, but for the relative frequency. And I want to zoom in to show you what we actually have to do. Oops, don't want to zoom in on the graph. What we actually have to do here, okay? Because highlighting this is a little bit different. Okay, so click somewhere else. That graph didn't go anywhere. It'll come back. It's still there. And what I'm going to do is I want to have this as my x variable, but I want to have this as my y variable. And they're not side by side, which is a bit of a problem. So what you need to do is you need to go this. Now, if you have a PC, you hold down Control. If you have a Mac, you hold down Command. And then you click the relative frequency. Now, it's important to do it in order. So you click the X, you highlight the X first, then you press the Command key, and you go over and then you highlight the Y. Okay? That's for Mac. If it's for a PC, you do the same thing, except you highlight the X, don't touch any keys, then you hold down your Control key, then you go over to your relative frequency and you highlight your relative frequency second. Okay, now when you go to, remember, insert, okay, and you insert your bar graph, you're going to see a few things. Now it's going to look exactly the same as it did before. Okay, I got to zoom out a fair bit so we can actually see this. And you can actually look at them side by side. They actually pretty much look the same. Oops. See there, I moved that like an idiot. But anyway, you can see that they look pretty much the same side by side or one under the other. If I make them exactly the same size, then they'll look like they're exactly the same graph, right? Although, there you go. Anyway, so they look like pretty much exactly the same graph. Certainly the same shape. And the key feature in here is, well, they should be. But the difference, if you look at the axes, and I'm going to put them side by side and then zoom in a little bit, is you're going to see that the axes for the frequency is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the axis for this new one, which is our relative frequency, is a decimal, 0.05, 0.01, 0.015, all the way up to 0.3. Okay, so I'm just going to put this guy over top of this guy temporarily, just so we can focus on what we're doing. And then we add all the elements that we want. I'm going to go to quick layout because I like how to do that. Boom, I hit it. It's got everything that I need. I delete what I don't want. I put in my title. Again, it's the same title, right? I'm just going to go fave TV show because I'm getting lazy. Okay? And then I'm here going to go same thing, but instead of course, I'm going to go relative frequency. A lot of people also call this a probability distribution because that's what it is. Relative frequency is an experimental or empirical measured probability. Okay, that's what relative frequency is. It's a percentage of the whole, which is the probability of occurrence in that particular data set. Don't forget here we need to have a relative frequency distribution. Another word you can use for this that we're hopefully going to get to by the end of our semester, we'll see, is also a probability distribution. Okay, it's another way to talk about it because relative frequency and probability are potato, they're the same thing. But relative frequency distribution of favorite TV show sampled from a group of Mr. and Lee's data students. Again, fall 2012 or whatever. Okay, and again, it doesn't really matter after that as long as you give me some sort of description about what the nature of the variable is. And there's my beautiful graph. If we're going to put them side by side, I think I have room to put them side by side here. Let me get rid of that. Let me get rid of the formula builder too. Oh, well, I can't. Anyway, I've got them side by side here. I guess I can make them a little bit smaller if I needed to. Okay, so that we can see the graph a little bit better. Anyway, there they are side by side. So we've got a relative frequency distribution and a frequency distribution created from our data table, which is all the way over here. Okay, so that's that, and we'll move on from there.